friends. Welcome back to your emotional support podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Rizzio, and this season we're on a mission to help working moms stop the guilt cycle, reclaim their worth, and finally move from juggling to thriving. Over the last few weeks, we've talked about guilt, invisible labor, and letting go of those super mom expectations. But today, we're getting a little more personal because this week's episode is all about that voice in your head. You know the one that sounds like, oh, you're not doing enough, you're falling behind, everyone else has it together but you. That voice has opinions and she is loud. So today's episode, The Inner Critic, Silencing the Voice That Says You're Not Enough, is all about figuring out where that voice comes from, what it's trying to do, because surprise, it's not all bad, and a few quick ways to turn down its volume when it starts running the show. So let's start here. What is that inner critic? It's that mental commentator that shows up and gives unsolicited feedback on everything you do. It sounds like you, but meaner. It shows up when you're tired or stressed or scrolling Instagram and says, you should be doing more. You should look better. You're failing your kids. It's like having a judgmental roommate living in your brain rent-free, and she never shuts up. But here's the twist. Your inner critic isn't actually out to destroy you. She's out to protect you. At some point in your life, that voice learned that being critical kept you safe, maybe from rejection or failure or disappointment. It thought, if I'm hard on myself first, no one else can be, or no one else can be as hard on me as I am on myself. So the critic was born out of self-preservation, but now she's kind of past her limit. She's overstepping. She's like that helicopter parent in your brain. She's well-intentioned, but exhausting. So let's talk about where she learned her lines. For most of us, our inner critic's voice is a mix of messages that we absorbed while we were growing up, from our parents, our teachers, our peers, our culture, media, all these kind of mashed together into one disapproving internal narrator. Maybe you grew up hearing things like, don't be lazy, always try your best, be nice. I know as women, we've heard that one. Don't mess up. And while all these things really sound positive on the surface, they can morph into these impossible standards later in life. So when you forget to sign a permission slip, or you lose your temper, or you order a pizza for the third night in a row, that inner voice freaks out because she thinks that imperfection equals danger. She's not evil. She's just outdated. So the good news is that we can update that. So one of the things that I talk about in my book is naming your inner critic. I name mine Nicole because people are always calling me Nicole instead of Noelle, and I absolutely hate it. It drives me crazy. There was one time that I even was spelling my name out, Noelle, and the person writing it down literally wrote Nicole while I was spelling my name out. I'm not sure what that is. Do you guys have a name that people mix yours up with? I don't know. It drives me crazy. It's happened for the last 45 years, so I should probably just get used to it. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so giving your inner critic that name helps you separate her voice from your truth. And you can learn to respond to your Nicole when she starts chiming in. So like now when I hear my Nicole say something like, you really should have handled that better, I can say, okay, Nicole, thank you for your feedback, but I'm good. It's funny and it's a little awkward at first, but it's also deeply effective because once you name your inner critic, she loses her power and you stop being the voice and start talking to the voice like it's another person. Okay. It kind of separates you from that voice in your head. And then you can start to break that down. So how do we quiet this inner voice? I'm going to give you some tips. These are tools to help you reframe and retrain that voice when it starts to take over. So the first thing you want to do is you want to name it and externalize it. Like we just talked about, give her a name. Give her a name of something that irritates you or something that is kind of maybe has a little bit of a negative connotation, but isn't something that you like absolutely hate, right? Make her a character. It helps you see that her voice is a voice and not your voice. Okay, try using curiosity instead of judgment. When Nicole starts talking, instead of fighting her, ask, "What are you trying to protect me from right now?" You'll usually find it's fear. Fear of not being enough, of being judged, of losing control. But that curiosity, just asking that question, brings compassion because you start to see why that voice is there. Okay, another thing that you can do is look for evidence. Your inner critic talks in absolutes. You always mess up. You're never patient. You're always yelling at your kids. Okay, but if you pause and ask, is this actually true? I'm going to guess that 99.9% of the time, it's not going to be true. So just kind of challenging that voice and saying, are you actually speaking the truth? And then try to talk back kindly. You don't have to yell at your inner critic or, swear at her like I sometimes do. That just creates a louder argument. Try responding gently, like something like, "I know you're scared, but I am safe." Or, "I don't need to be perfect to be worthy. We're doing just fine." And then reinforce the real you. Start ending that conversation with Nicole with what is actually true. Saying things like, "I'm learning. I'm doing my best. I'm allowed to rest." Remember, you can't silence that inner critic by force, but you can retrain her tone. You can retrain what she is telling you. Our brains are wired for negativity, because that's what we've been trained throughout our years of living, is to beware of the negative. Okay, but we can retrain her and kind of make her more positive. Here's the secret sauce: humor. And I think that's the secret sauce for everything in life. But when you laugh at your inner critic, she loses her authority. You can turn her from a dictator into comic relief. Okay? If she starts telling you stuff, just kind of laugh at her like, "Nicole, gosh, you're being ridiculous again." And kind of laugh it off. Not giving her that credibility takes away her authority. Okay? Here's the truth. That inner critic never fully goes away, but she gets quieter when you stop mistaking her for the truth. She still might show up and judge you sometimes, but now you get to choose whether or not you listen to her. You are not the voice that says you're not enough. You're the one who hears that voice and decides otherwise. All right, friends, that's it for today's episode of your Emotional Support Podcast. If Nicole has been especially chatty in your head lately, share this episode with another mom who's dealing with her own version. We're all learning how to turn down the noise together. Next week, we're diving into boundaries without guilt, how to say no like you mean it. Until then, take a deep breath, thank your inner critic for trying to help, and remind her, I've got this. I'm so glad you're here.